All right, so today we're going to be talking about add-ons, but not just any add-ons, quality of life add-ons. And what I mean by that is add-ons that I think add something to the game or improve your experience without taking up any space on your screen or without really interfering unless you want them to. So this is not going to be any add-on that really has any role in combat for the most part. And I fully reset my UI and fully reset all my settings, and I'll be looking at each add-on individually. I'm starting with the add-ons with the most downloads, and I'm getting down to add-ons that have so little downloads that there's no number on the CurseForge browser. The reason I did this is because there's a lot of add-ons that a lot of people use, but I think it's important that the add-ons are so good that everyone should be using them. Starting off with the most popular add-on on the list, Leatrix Plus and Leatrix Maps. They have 28 and 8 million downloads together. So Leatrix Plus and Maps are both going to be mini map options. And basically what Leatrix Plus is whenever you've been doing something in the game, or you're like questing, or you're just trying to get something done and you've ever wondered, can I get rid of this annoying thing, or can I automate this thing? Chances are Leatrix Plus has the option. For example, you can automate quests, and you can even set it to also automate daily and weekly quests. You can set it to automatically accept your summon, automatically repair, and then customize the rules for that, as well as selling junk. Automatically release in PvP, which will be nice if you get tilted when people emote you when you die in PvP. As well as just faster ways to do things like blocking invites or blocking requests and stuff like that. And Leatrix Plus also has one of my favorite features of any add-on called Queue from Friends. So what this does is, the role you have selected in the Dungeon Finder menu, if you queue up with a Battle.net friend, they're the leader, and you're queuing for, let's say, Mythic Plus or Raids, for example, you'd select the role you want in the Dungeon Finder, and then it will take whatever role you have selected here and automatically accept apply requests that your leader is trying to get into groups. So this means that if you have all Battle.net friends in a group trying to find one Mythic Plus dungeon and you have one slot, you can just everyone turn on Queue from Friends, select the role that you want the person to see you applying as, and now the leader can just rapidly click through and apply, and they don't have to wait for everyone to accept every single time. And when you get into the group, it will automatically accept that as well. This just works great. And you can also, as you see on the bottom here, you can choose to treat people from your guild or from an in-game community as a friends for the purpose of these settings right here. There's also just really nice features in here that I use all the time, such as hiding the talking head that pops up when an NPC is speaking in some RP event. And then I also have a button to hide the cleanup from my bags. Now, this is not how my bags usually look. It's just that I don't like the Blizzard's way of cleaning up. I have a different add-on for cleaning up. But yeah, Leatrix Plus is never in your way. You never notice the add-on exists unless you want to go in and change a setting, and that's going to be a theme. So Leatrix Maps, the way it works is that if you don't have a map fully revealed, like for example, this character does not have Stormheim fully revealed, but you can see darker areas here. This is where I don't have explored on the account or this character, but Leatrix Maps is revealing what's there to me. Leatrix Maps also makes sure that every single map has the proper icons. Sometimes some dungeon icons, like for example, in Val'sharah Darkheart Thicket was a dungeon that was active in Dragonflight, and I had a character that had just not explored this little bit, and I would never see the dungeon entrance. I'd always be like hesitant on exactly where it is. I'd have to go look for it. But Leatrix Maps enforces that icons, even in places you don't have actually explored, will be there, and the texture will be there, just darkened. Now, moving on. I said none of the add-ons were going to be about combat-related stuff. However, this is the one exception. Now, this add-on is called AdvancedInterfaceOptions, all one word. Now, AdvancedInterfaceOptions adds this menu in the add-on section of your UI. And this technically does not add anything new at all. All this does is it lets you quickly access things that are doable in default client. You just have to like type out a string or type a command. For example, if you just trust that your UI isn't breaking, you can turn off errors entirely. And then simple things like reversing the cleanup of bags so that the space is available on the top of my bags instead of the bottom, as well as reversing loot so loot goes to the top and not the bottom. By far the most important thing that's, thankfully it's by default on in Advanced Interface Options, is cast action on keybind down. So if I turn this off, look at what happens. So this is a Shadow Priest, and this is an ability called Shadow Crash. This is a targeted ability, and you throw it on the ground with like a little targeting reticle. If I press, so this is bound to V as you see here. If I press V right now, it highlights it, but as you see, there's nothing for me to target. There's no cursor. Then I release V, then there's the cursor. This is how the game works default, and it's awful. It means that effectively there's a lag. If you press a button and then it's only when you release the button that it actually activates. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe it's just like an old game thing. But in the game, there used to be a checkbox in the menus of like 5 or 6 years ago that would change keybind down in controls. They removed it and they made it a command for some strange reason. But just installing Advanced Interface Options, this box will be checked by default. So now, if I press V, immediately, there's no like highlight period on the keybind. Immediately the spell activates. So if just turning this on alone might make you feel like you just have less lag. And yeah, it's something that should be active by default because it's basically applying like a 50 to 150 millisecond delay to every single spell with this, and it's just I don't really know why it's default in the game. But yeah, advanced interface options also lets you do things like control your max zoom distance. So max zoom distance in the game is 1.9, and you'd have to do a command in game to change it. This just has a nice slider and stuff like that, as well as being able to turn on the action cam and stuff like that if ever you want to look cool and do cinematic stuff. But that about does that. Now moving on to the reason I can move things around on my screen very freely. Now the first component in this add-on pair is BlizzMove. I made a very short video on BlizzMove. It has 5 million downloads. It's a relatively well-known add-on. And BlizzMove basically just makes Windows behave like your desktop Windows as you would expect on your computer. The second part of this add-on only has 26,000 downloads somehow, and I think it's the best part. So for example, if I go to, this is a good one right here, if I go to the auction house and then I open my character pane and then I want to open my professions, it closes my character pane. So then I go to open alchemy, and then now it closes the professions, and I open my character pane, and then it closes the fucking alchemy tab, and it's just like a nothing. I have to screenshot, put on the other monitor, and it's stupid. If you literally just install no autoclose, just no autoclose, one word. Again, 20,000 downloads. I don't know how people play without this. Now, whenever you open a window, it's up. You open the character window, it's also up. You open the profession window and the alchemy window, they can stay up. For the first time, the game is like, this is a responsible adult that can manage multiple windows open at once. And then there's no issues anymore, and it's great. And this should actually just be how the game works. I don't know why this isn't default again. Just a simple checkbox could just solve this entire thing. But anyways, yeah, that's basically it. BlizzMove lets you move things around. You can control click to resize things, and then you can shift and control right click to send everything back to default. And no autoclose basically just lets you overlap windows and have a mess if you want. But the convenience, in my opinion, vastly outweighs the momentary mess that it can look like. All right, now moving on to one of my favorite add-ons in this list, and that's Death Note. So usually in default UI, if you're flying around or if you're doing anything and you die, you'll have two options when you die, a release spirit option and then a recap option. Now, a lot of add-ons mess with this recap option, but Death Note gives you this. Now, this is a proper recap that goes up to 30 seconds prior to when you died, but it will show every single event leading up to the death, during the death, and then not for you, but anyone else in your party that dies as well. So in an LFR I just did, this guy died, and you can see exactly what happened during the death. So clearly, a bunch of stuff was happening, and then he gave up on life and stood in the Kazara beam. I feel that sometimes. I know I said no combat add-ons. Technically, you can't even use Death Note in combat. It won't even open. As far as after combat, now this recap thing, that would be default in the game. Now this is the default death recap in the game. Now I can move it with BlizzMove. I mean, most of the time it puts like 6 or 7 things here, but it's 6 or 7 instances of damage. Sometimes you take damage from something, and that isn't the killing blow, but it sets up a situation where now you're in more danger and then you die to something else. But you can't see that in recap. You can't see the thing that like domino effect escalated your death. You only see the most recent things in death recap. Now, details, the popular damage meter add-on does change this recap to be a little bit more useful. But yeah, I personally prefer Death Note because it's nice after a dungeon when you can do /D's nuts in chat. And then you can go in and see, okay, when the tank died, what happened? Was he getting heals? If someone died in the raid and they complain they're not getting heals, and you see they're standing in a beam or something like that, or you see they fell on like fire rack, and it's like, okay, this gives you a way to like store the information and look at it later without having to worry about trying to check it on the fly, which can be hectic and it can be pretty inaccurate. And Death Note only has 600,000 installs, by the way. I think that's actually relatively low for an add-on that's been in the game for well over 10 years at this point, I think. Now moving on to Dialogue UI with just under 250,000 installs. Now this add-on is technically supposed to be more of an RP immersion thing. And all it does in the name Dialogue UI is it changes the dialogue box when you talk to NPCs. So this quest box that you probably have never seen before. I like this for a bunch of reasons. Firstly, my screen's very big, and also the second screen I play on is very small. 14-inch laptop and 32-inch my main monitor on my PC. Now, for some reason, this quest window does not scale with screen size. So for me, I have to be pretty pixel perfect with which one I select. That's just kind of annoying sometimes. You click the wrong one, then the NPC starts talking, and then you have to cancel out, click the right one, and then, yeah, it's just annoying. So Dialogue UI improves this in a couple ways. Firstly, by the way, to open settings in Dialogue UI, once you're talking to an NPC, you just press F1. And on default, the first thing I turn off is on default, it's set to where it zooms into the NPC to be like more immersive. I'm not a fan of that. It's a bit too jarring, so I turn that off. Now, Dialogue UI brings this up. It's very nice and big every single time. But the best part is this 1, 2, 3 here. You can press the corresponding key on your keyboard to get to that option. So now I never have to move my mouse away after I click the NPC. I can just press the button on my keyboard. And then what makes it even better, without dialogue UI, when you talk to this NPC, if you want to drop your key, you have to look top left. And again, it's a big or a small screen. It's going to be annoying dealing with this questing, especially if it's auto closing. Go to this NPC, click this button, click accept, then it drops your key. Then you have to click out, go to the NPC, click the button, stuff like that. That's totally fine. But now with dialogue UI on, I talk to her, I press 2, I spam spacebar until it's dropped. I talk to her again, I press 2, I spam spacebar until it's dropped. It just makes it much nicer, in my opinion. In one window, it's just a cleaner look. And I also like that things are big and readable. It's just nice. It's just quality of life. All right, moving on to Keymaster, which I think if you like running Mythic Plus, which seems to be the most popular mode in the game, this is a pretty neat add-on to have. Keymaster only has 50k downloads, and it's procced by doing /km, or with the minimap icon. And this shows you a bunch of stuff. So it breaks down your score by dungeon, showing you your best times and stuff like that. It'll also show you your vault down here if you have a vault. And then it'll show you your party's score in every single dungeon, and your party's current keystone and their current like at live Mythic Plus score. And also it will show you the current affixes here. I've just been turning add-ons on and off a lot without reloading my UI, but I'm pretty sure if I hit a quick reload, yeah, it's back. Now the greatest part about Keystone Master is it helps you know how much score you can gain from doing a dungeon. So currently I have my 2 Ruby life pool because I just dropped it for that last add-on. But if I had, let's say, a 15 Ruby life pool on Tyrannical, I can type 15 in here, click enter, and it will tell me I gained 36 from that, and that will be my new score. Even better than that is when you have multiple people in your party. So it says my key there and my current Ruby life pool gain is 0 because my key is lower than the 12 that I did. However, when this populates with more people, as you have more keys at the start of the week, this will start telling you who can gain from what current keys you have in the party right now. So at a glance, you can open this, see that it says 0 for everyone, and then people can freely reroll their keys. Or you can see that it says like 100 for someone and they're missing a key from a dungeon. And then you easily can see the gain potential of that exact key. Now this add-on is relatively new, but it has been updated a lot in like the last couple months since it came out. So I only started using it this season, but it's been so nice to just look up, like say, okay, I want to do a 16 Ruby life pool. I can quickly see what that would give me instead of having to go to Raider.io and then putting it in a calculator and then trying to figure it all out manually. This is just way, way, way nicer. Now, I've covered most of like the major game-changing, like holy crap add-ons that I use day to day. The 2 remaining are actually my favorite, and they're very, very, very niche. So if you're like me and you play without sounds, Ping Sounds is a very, very tiny add-on. Right, so Ping Sounds is very simple. Again, this is for people who don't already use sounds in the game. Now, in-game, the ping actual sound itself, while Blizzard did put a slider here, now, if you don't have sound effects turned on, this slider doesn't override and you just let pings through. This is just to lower pings and keep all the other. I don't really know why this slider exists in the game. It's a little bit misleading. But Ping Sounds, again, less than 1,000 installs on this add-on. A lot of people I know play without sound. And all Ping Sounds does is it lets no sound through besides the pings. It's great. It works totally fine. Now, if you have any other add-ons that mess with sounds, Ping Sounds will whitelist those add-ons, so you will still get weak aura sounds. You can still get DBM or bigwig sounds in. It's not going to actually delete any add-on sounds. It is worth noting that if you do install an add-on when you have Ping Sounds, you have to like log your character out, log your character back in for Ping Sounds to recognize that it's an add-on that makes a sound. But it's never been a problem with me with any other add-on. And I can't play the game without this because since they added pings into the game, this is like the way I communicate inside of dungeons is telling people, especially as tank, I'll like ping a pack, and then ping the arrow. So people know that these 2 packs that are pinged are going towards the arrow. So again, very, very niche specific use add-on, but really, really, really quality of life if you like to have that sounds off, but still have a method of communication. Okay, and I've re-enabled my action bars just for a second to look at this last add-on. And this last add-on, it's probably something you're going to use like twice a year, but when you have to use it, it's the greatest thing ever. So typically, whenever I'm rerolling characters or having to share my add-ons or going to a new PC or doing anything that requires keybinds to be reset or changed or the action bars to be moved, what I have to do is screenshot my keybinds and then try to read this tiny little thing that's up here on the start of each bind. Now, that doesn't really work because, for example, on some binds, these spells are not bound to F9, F10, F11. This is like the bind that the game has written because like it's one of the applicable binds in the thing, but it's not the actual one I'm using. And I also use an MMO mouse, so whenever you see a bind that's like 7, 8, 9, it means that it's just a button on my mouse. If only there was a way to visualize your binds, you can either share it with a friend or just talk about it or have it for yourself later. This is where KeyUI comes in. Now, I found this add-on by searching through all add-ons on CurseForge and sorting by least downloaded. So it has so little downloads, there is no download number. So I couldn't tell you how many people use this, if any at all. When you click KeyUI on the minimap, this is it. It's kind of great in my opinion. So it shows you what your binds are on the keyboard layout, as well as it even supports the little mouse, and it shows you, like, I only use the bottom 6 for WoW, so it shows me that, like, my feather, my shield, shadow word death, stuff like that, it's bound there. So if ever anyone wants to know my keybinds, I don't have to then explain that whole spiel I did at the start. I can just do this and then screenshot. And what's even better is if you hold shift, you can see what the binds are when you hold shift, as well as if you hold control, you can see that it's just good. It's actually just good. Another really cool utility is the red boxes are ones that are not bound to anything in the game. Now, you can manually go in and remove stuff, so keep in mind you don't want to mess it up as well. But for example, configuring the mouse, I had to manually go in and just set the mouse for the very first time to what I have it rebounded through in Razor's software. But yeah, that's it. Just really cool way to visualize your keybinds, to see what binds you have open. So one thing I haven't done for some reason is I have never rebound A and D, even though I've never pressed A and D, I always Q and E. And if I need to turn, I use my right click. This also reminds me that I can use, now ignore these like random letters here. This depends on the language setting you have. But it also reminds me that I can use 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I can have that remap to my mouse, or it's just binds that I can freely use without interacting with the game or messing anything up. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully you find at least one of these add-ons useful. Personally, I use all of these very regularly, and especially like Death Note, Ping Sounds, Dialogue UI are things that if they're broken, I just can't play without them. That's gonna be pretty much it. I just wanted to do this before I redid my entire UI, because at that point there'd just be so much random crap on my screen I couldn't effectively showcase each add-on individually. But yeah, that's gonna be all for now. Hopefully this helped. Later.